Okay, when you use coordination in a sentence, it makes the sentence parts longer. So far I've shown you that in a sentence there is predication, where you've got a subject and you've got a predicate. I also showed you that there was modification, where you can have modifiers down here. Well, the last time I showed you that now you can have coordination, where the subject can be made compound, the modifiers can be made compound, the predicate can be made compound, and even the clauses, one clause, another clause, that can be made compound. And with this kind of a system, you can have a very complicated looking sentence, which isn't necessarily that complicated. But there are other sentence parts that we need. I got to get an eraser here. Otherwise, we can't have really interesting sentences. And so in a way, I'm backing up here so that I can teach you to walk before you run. Sometimes you just got a single word, like an interjection. You've learned an interjection is a word that shows feeling and stands alone. Well, in a diagram, since it stands alone, it's not in the diagram. You just put it up there floating. If you said, oh, matter of fact, oh is a good one to start with, oh. Or another one that you do that with is called direct address. If you speak straight to somebody, then if I said, Tom, do you understand this? Well, do you understand this is a sentence. Tom is direct address. Oh, Romeo, for example. When Juliet is saying that famous line up there in the balcony, she starts by saying, oh, Romeo, Romeo. Both of those are direct address. She's speaking to Romeo, although she doesn't realize that he's down there in the garden. But anyway, I'll come back to this. That's one thing I wanted to show you. If you've got direct address or interjections, you put them on floating lines. Another thing I wanted to show you is that parts of speech can be phrasal. If I put Mark did something here, Mark did something, it would be pretty clear Mark wrote. You could do a sentence like that. But if I said Mark Twain, well, Mark Twain is still one noun. That's not Mark being modified by Twain or Twain being modified by Mark. No, that's two words, Mark Twain. That is a phrasal noun because now we've got a phrase, more than one word acting as a single sentence part. If I said Mark Twain has written, well, now we've got a phrasal, a verb phrase we have. We've got two words. This is not modifying has. Has is not modifying written. This is a helping verb, which you might remember. Now on this chart over here, these really are words that must be recognized. Here are your helping verbs. And you really do have to know these if you're going to diagram. All right, still one other thing, two other things maybe I want to show you. If I made this a question, has Mark Twain written? Well, I shouldn't have erased that all because it would have looked exactly the same with one exception. And the one exception is I would capitalize this. And that shows that there's where the sentence starts. Has Mark Twain written? And speaking of Mark Twain, so here's a verb phrase. And how you know where a sentence starts is by looking at what's capitalized. Still one other thing. Speaking of Mark Twain, his most famous book probably is Tom Sawyer, and that book opens like this. Tom, no answer. Tom, no answer. Well, so the whole first paragraph would be diagrammed like this. And I'd like to point out that sometimes you'll have teachers that say a paragraph has to have at least 3 sentences. That's an expository paragraph. In narration, paragraphs can be very short. No answer is the second paragraph, and that can be diagrammed. Answer is the subject. No modifies it. How many answers? No answer. And you might think, well, where's the predicate? You've got to have a subject and a predicate for a clause. It is understood. And you put an X. No answer arrived. Or you could say, no answer was heard. That happens often. Many, many sentences. It's called an ellipsis. An elliptical sentence when a lot of the words are simply understood. So I've taught you about what you do with words that have to be filled in your mind. They're not actually written there. I've shown you how you can tell where sentences start. And I've shown you about direct address and interjections. And that's probably a lot for one. Questions? Okay, well then, you have a question? Fine, then we should stop.